Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Michael Sandoval and Chris Detzel. This podcast starts now. Episode of Peers Over Beers. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
Excellent. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Doing well, man.
Excellent. Well, so you folks can't see, but you're having what's a blue shirt?
Well, it's a Boston Marathon shirt, but it was my 5K that I ran.
Oh.
So every year, my wife, I think for the last 7 or 8 years, has gone to Boston to run the marathon. And then sometimes I would go with her and I run the 5K over there with, just because it's 2 days before the marathon. It's hugely popular. And so I got this really cool Boston Marathon 5K shirt.
Oh, that's cool. Every time I see it, I swear it's like you're supporting the Swedish football team or something like that.
I know it looks, a lot of people think that, so
yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is kind of
weird. So we were just chatting. We were talking about, actually, there's a lot of stuff we were talking about. One was a good discussion around, is community a product or is it a service, right? This kind of pulls back this idea that, executives in an organization want to put things in a box.
Yeah.
So they can apply a certain lens. Okay, this is a product, so I know the things I need to ask as a product. Oh, there's a service, I know to frame it in terms of service, stuff like that. And this is because I think you had some discussions with your boss around fundamentally what is it, right? And
yeah, what is it that you're trying to accomplish with community and more specifically in the short term? And, I had to put, I guess the conversation goes like this is, I have a new boss at work and everything else, and I'm trying to learn his way of doing things. He's trying to learn, or maybe he's not trying to learn my way. He's trying to get me to conform to his way. It's really how that really works in any organization when you have new leaders. And so, the way I was presenting, where community is or how the things that community can accomplish, I was talking about it in a service type of way. We can help one grow the community by X number of members because we need to really start, getting people in the community. Two is, content. So, the goal at the end of the day, one of the many goals is, we call it case deflection or, getting people to come into the community and ask questions, and we have answered questions. And then, a big thing was SEO, Google. At the end of the day, customer search, and we want them to get their answers to the product question through Google because that's where most people search anyways. So just trying to, I have a plan. I was trying to show him that plan.
Yeah.
And I think he was coming at it as more, he's more product focused, as in that's where he comes from.
Yeah.
And so, I was just trying to understand, community is in this sense not a product. I'm just trying to understand it. And he was, well, maybe that's my lens and things like that. And so we were having that conversation. And so, you had some thoughts around it.
And I was kind of going this path like, ooh, I don't, because I've tried, I wouldn't say try. And so there are some communities that are our product. When we, in our old, gosh, was it Electro, God, was that guy who had
Electro Holden?
No, that was us, but I mean.
Oh, like electrician talk?
That's it. Electrician talk.
Yeah.
That is truly a community that's a product. I mean, their value is selling ads and selling traffic.
Ads are all over that thing,
all over the
people
thing,
are clicking
right?
it.
And
that's all it is.
Yeah, and
that's a huge moneymaker for them.
Yeah, and this is where I say a community can work as a product if the product is eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
In other words, or that's what you're trying to sell is eyeballs. That, or you're trying to sell tiered services, right? But then that's kind of a little bit outside of the community sphere, but it can be done, right? Gold or silver or whatever. In a corporate environment, it really is a service. It's very difficult to treat it as a product when you have other products to sell. This is not the focus of the company, right? The focus of the company should be selling its other products. So therefore, this becomes an assist, right? And I was writing, and I'm, in my head I was thinking, are there some edicts that you can put down, like the community number one thing for the community is I am always an advocate of the customer. You know,
Hmm. That's right.
if anything that we do is outside of that sphere, then it's not going to work, or I'm not going to put in the community. Two, trust will become value, and the value is realized by both the user and the company,
Mm.
right? Three, if you break any of those two rules, the community will die.
That's right. I like it.
And like I would put that as like my here is my thesis. Like, this is the theory. Everything I do now from here, when you discuss, is about these three golden rules of community. And then I thought, was like, well, okay, maybe there's a way, because I know how some of these execs tend to be, which is they love things in stages and phases. And I've seen that, I drew that curve where it's that it's everybody's seen the curve, which is it's growth. I'm sorry, it's birth, then growth, and the last stage in community is maturization or maturity. I call it valuation, because that's when you begin to see a lot of the value in the community. Um, and I think, hey, if you phrased it in kind of, hey, this, now that we have agreed that this is what the community does, we are here as a service to the product to drive, case deflection, loyalty, time to value. If we understand that, then let's talk about how this is going to become that for the company. But first, before I do that, you have to understand how a community grows. It's organic. It is not something you go build in China and then release it into the States. This is a physical human endeavor.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need humans to interact. And so they go in phases, just like we grow, and in each phase, here's the time span for that. This is what I measure, and this is the focus for that time. So I think in first one, which was birth, I put down, and I was just brainstorming. So there's a lot
Yeah.
we can kind of do it, but it was around stability, growth, popularity, and I called it vertical. In other words, you just want to shoot like a seed, right? You're going to measure number of users, engagement, SEO to product, and support. This is the case deflection piece, classic community stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once you feel good that you've gone in that stage, then you're in the next one. Now we're in growth. This is about really, and I think this is where you were just as you were leaving your old company, right?
Yeah. That's right.
You knew that, okay, hey, it's moving. Now we get to do blogs. We're going to do wiki articles. We're going to extend what I call horizontally, which is get deeper into the business. Integration becomes a big piece of this part of the phase. And you're going to focus the same measurements as number one, but then you're going to add what are the measurements that make a community vibrant, right? So there's a lot of other elements in that measurement.
Like
And the
what?
last one, pardon?
Like what?
You can do things like number of communities created,
Okay.
uh, number of number of posts per person, or something like that, or number of blogs generated, interactions of blogs, and wiki articles. There's a whole other sphere of measurements you can kind of put upon to talk about it. And then
Yeah.
I even think even something more employee centric, like number of employees participating on the community, right? That means that you're kind of deepening
What's kind of
your
weird is that I'm
tentacles.
already doing that at the very beginning.
No, and it's okay, because that's a setup, because you need them right now. What you need are
Yeah. Yep.
SMEs participating.
That's right. That's
In
exactly what I
phase
have.
two, they're the next tier of employees just engaging
Oh,
because they
okay.
feel there's value in talking in this venue.
Got it. Okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, and then the last one I call valuation, which is, this is where you start to see a lot of the value in the community, where you're at a hum. People go to the community first before they pick up the phone, or they
Hmm.
use support. The whole call deflection piece is realized. You're able to evaluate the amount of, like, the cost it takes for an answer to be answered on the community versus the cost it takes to answer somebody from the phone. It is fully integrated. It's a sell point. It is people. It becomes a brand value adder. In other words, I come to Realtio because you have a really good support system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's value.
It's huge value.
It's huge value. It's brand value. That stuff. And the reason it's value because you spent all that time in phase 1 and 2 to extract that value from rule 2, which was the trust you had built. And that trust will come value. And it comes on the other side too. The customer is getting value. The customer is getting value. Their answers are being answered. They have trust in the content that's being done. They seem there's a loyalty about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they choose to come to you. And I think that's value, right? Anyway, I feel like if you kind of said those words or say those words, I'm saying like in past, like in other words,
Yeah.
hey, let's reframe this.
Yeah.
I think you say you like community and understand it. I want you to know that this is how I frame it. And I want to make sure we're aligned.
Hmm.
And that's, and he'll probably say, yeah, I got it. Yeah. That's aligned, right? And you have to do it again. And
Yeah.
again.
Over and over and over. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because you're telling me this, and I already know a lot of this. Hey, you got to
Yeah,
tell
we've
people
had,
over
yeah.
and over and over. That's just until it sticks. And maybe that's some of the things he wants me to tell him. Like, oh well, no, the way it should be is like this, not like that, or that kind of stuff. And so,
Well,
um,
you suffer the curse of knowledge.
yeah, yeah,
You know what to do,
yeah,
and you're already a few steps ahead, and you're like, oh, I got to stop to like catch you up.
yeah. I've already been doing this.
Dude,
Yeah,
you guys hired me to do this, and you want me to tell you?
yeah, but it's part of the job.
Right, it
It's
is. So then you go, okay, let me remind you.
No, that was good. I like that, and hopefully this helps others because I figure if it's helping me, I'm in this all day, every day. That it's got to be helping others, and so
Yeah,
it's really good advice.
yeah, and I think then once you do that, then you can frame it as a product. Then I think that's probably the other piece is to think about that too. Uh, there's, in other words, I think I said when we were chatting, I said there's nothing about putting product thinking to the community. Right? There's
Yeah,
some value in that, which is you market it correctly. It's about building content. It's you know applying the SWOT analysis. Where's my strength, weakness, that kind of stuff, and
yeah,
applying those types of skills to it is valuable. But
yeah.
you have to understand that it's done as a part of a service, not as a separate product.
What do you think about if you were to get this question was asked, like if you were given millions of dollars, let's just say, to build this community, what other things could you do, and what can you do? And if you get it in 3 months, how can you not just expand, but kind of push forward
Oh, so
faster?
to me, it's easy. It's content. I go by content. I make it a reason for people to come to me. And you know where that content you've been doing it.
Yeah,
You
I
buy the
do it now,
content.
but yeah,
You fundamentally go find people to write stories. But think about it in bigger terms, like in terms of say finding an expert in the field and bringing him over, and you have a professional team that videotapes them, and he just pumps out knowledge articles one after another, and it becomes like the spokesperson for the community. You have writers who are just writing out stuff that it becomes so much like bees to honey. You become a content business, is what you do.
hmm.
If you really want to take it to another level, a content business that still does number 1 and 2.
Hmm.
You're an advocate for the user because you're building content that people want, what real to
Yeah,
people want. And because you're going to find people who are advocates in the industry, e.g., this, right?
yeah,
Money, that Joe, he was over at now he's over here in the community exclusively providing content.
hmm.
That sounds great. And then you're going to have more people than just um, real to customers. You're going to have other people in the industry coming in to look at you as maybe a
The
a
true master data
source,
management, the
a
source of
source.
all
Yes,
things.
exactly. Yep.
So
And
find
that,
some of those influencers to write content specifically,
yeah, you're going to create a media company fundamentally. And then
videos,
oddly
whatever.
enough, now I'm creating a product.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I came at it at a completely different lens, and although I think content is absolutely the key, I'm interested. So you have training that produces a lot of content, right? So they're always creating videos of how to go deep into the product and that kind of stuff. Then you have um, uh, support creating knowledge base articles and things like that, and they're trying to create some video stuff here and there on their own, about the product so that they can you know um, and then you have community doing some of the similar things. What's the tie in there?
Uh, Damn good question. And I think a really good case study would to look at Adobe. So what Adobe did is it's a software, it's a SaaS now product. They have all of these products and they have a very vibrant community.
Yep.
But the community itself is now not the thing. It is a support anchor to a larger support brand, right? So they have the creative studio. The creative studio, which incorporates the products, but it also is about making you a better creator, getting you the answers quickly, and deepening you into the product. So in that creative studio suite, they have the community, they have training, they have face to
Yep.
face, support.
Alteryx community has all this too, but
Yeah,
anyways.
and if you're looking at a model of where community can go, you can say actually my you can even be upfront and say something funny like, so what's your vision for the community? My vision community is for us to not have a community anymore.
Hmm.
And by that I mean the community is not the thing you go to, but it's a resource that is used for the larger support brand. And I'm
Hmm.
creating a support brand. That could be an angle.
So these guys come from Intuit and TurboTax, so they
Oh well,
understand
that's how they did that. Yeah.
in a big way of how communities should be run, or at least the opportunity that communities can be a huge uh, uh, value for
Yeah.
the organization,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what TurboTax did.
Yeah. 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 And maybe those are the frameworks to kind of build upon. But I actually have been very. Another one is Autodesk. They do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yep.
Now, Autodesk, they haven't done what Adobe does, which is to create the more of a support brand. But Autodesk is definitely known because they have a strong community and they build their own content. They have a team.
Yep.
They build content for the community exclusively. I mean, we've had interviews with, uh, I want to say it was not Autodesk, it was another company in which this person, as part of the community team, was making videos. That's all she did was
Yep.
made support videos, professionally done.
Yeah.
But in a sense, that's what they're doing. They're buying content.
No, I think that when you look at the Alteryx, probably Adobe and Autodesk, they have content creators just for community, right?
Yes.
Part of that is just pumping out content, but it's also working with the brand, like marketing brand, to kind of make sure that they're writing in sync of the right content, you know. And so there's absolutely. So I built this org chart, or I took somebody's org chart that like Brian Oblinger did, and then kind of put all these roles, into this org chart specifically around, content. So having like 3 people specifically for content. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Is when I think about expanding the community, which you've given me some more thinking around content, but and I think that that's probably the number one thing I would have to go over. But then two is kind of an operational role, like you'd have like the hierarchy of the leader of a community, and then you'd have content, a program content manager, maybe a couple of people under them, and then you'd have an operational team, like maybe a program manager there, and then you know, uh, I don't know, administrative type person, but then also a integration specialist that can help build those integrations into other pieces of uh, the support portals and things like that. And then user groups. So in user groups, you have program manager there, and then somebody that runs user groups slash maybe events, and then I forgot the other one, but basically the way I kind of looked at that was advocacy. So another was advocacy and running kind of the advocacy programs. All those fit really nicely into community. And if you want to expand and build community, you need those parts to it, or those fit very nicely. And so that would be a really good kind of way to see it. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
No, no, no. As in my head, so I don't know if this is what you did or not, but I was smiling because I love how you go right to like, all right, let's go build it.
Yeah.
Which I really admire about you. Um,
Well, you got to start somewhere. I'm not saying, hey, you have it all right there, but this is what
but,
an entire
but I,
team can look like. If
yes,
I need to build it out to each one, then let me know.
yeah. What I was seeing through what you were talking through were kind of like the pillars of where you want the community to grow.
Yeah.
And in some way, you're saying, and we're it's almost a good tie from what we were discussing. Like, um, instead of putting people behind it, what you just mentioned, I
Mm,
would take each of those words and say, this is my content build plan, and not put people, don't put structure, don't put anything,
mm,
and just say, this is my focus, and these are my foci, right? These are the things I'm going to focus on. And then you can stage it out by saying, I need this first, then I need this second, then I need this third. And that is your growth plan. Now, if you want me to know how I would staff it, that's a different conversation,
uh,
you know? But let us agree that this is the things we want to go do. And there is a dollar sign, each of those, right? They have to understand that each of these phases is a dollar sign. And as I grow, that dollar sign increases. And you know where that dollar sign is about? It's people.
yeah. Yeah.
And and then and then you may want to say, hey, once we reach a certain point, actually going back to the chart that I sent you, this one,
Yeah. Yeah.
as you move on to the next phase, that should be a jump in people because you've grown enough to add more staff to support some of these functions. And
Right.
maybe kind of in that, I honestly think that what you had right there was exactly a good community strategy. Like, this is how I'm thinking. This is how I'm phasing out the community in these buckets.
Okay.
So
Got to
I
figure out
think
how to.
you're really very spot on.
Good. Good. Now I need to be able to
Put it into
talk about that
PowerPoint.
in the PowerPoint. It's
You know,
like
I was
I've
thinking
just.
about this. Remember when we were Excel? I did this very similar. I think I was tasked to figure out how I could make it into a media company, right? Making community media company.
Hmm.
They were, in a sense, we're looking at investing in how can we make it million. How can we, if you were to be given a big chunk of money, what would it look like?
Yeah.
And I think I did spreadsheets, and I think or we can take it offline a little bit, but that may be something there for you to
Kind
think
of
about.
think about. Yeah. I wish I had all that stuff. I think that my big challenge is, and I'm learning, and I think that's a very good thing. Is as you want to get bigger, or you want to grow in your career, you have to be able to speak the language of your boss, their boss, etc. And build those PowerPoints, even if you're not good at building PowerPoints. I
Well,
mean, I've
just walking through this with you is a really great experience for you personally,
yeah,
um, because you reach another level in your career where you're now talking to another level up,
yeah,
and I love these levels because they no offense to these guys and gals, they're so they just need enough information and then they forget, they move on to another problem, and they
yeah,
come back talking like, oh yeah, your name is Chris, right?
yeah. No, it's fun. It's slightly stressful, but I think it's really fun to kind of one, see where I was, and see where I am today, and knowing that you really helped me kind of get to where I am. Right? I'm not
Yeah, it's a
saying
lot of
I didn't
fun.
make a lot of hard work, but I'm trying to I'm trying to get to your level. You know what I mean? So how do I do that? Seriously, I mean, at the end of the day is, what else has worked for, to stay at the same level? I don't think so.
Nah, it's
I'm a
kind of
pretty
important.
driven dude, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
we're
need to
both very
show that
driven.
I'm
Yeah.
growing, in a uh, right way. And so having these kind of conversations to me are helpful, and you're very giving of your time, and certainly
It's all fun. I love this shit.
you and I know, and so I'm happy to give you more. So,
Mike, here's another morsel for you. Put your touch.
and maybe next time we'll talk about some stuff that are going on with you and your org, and
It's right out in the middle of evaluating vendors, so it's maybe after I evaluate them and then get them
okay.
going. Maybe that's a bit.
No, that's a good point. So evaluation of vendors, and this popped up, and so we don't have time to talk about it. But um, Higher Logic bought a company called Vanilla Forums, another community
Oh yeah, yeah. I
platform,
saw that post you put on LinkedIn. Yeah.
and so there's some things to really talk about from that standpoint.
What
About
is? I'm sorry. This I should know this.
no, it's fine.
But what does Vanilla do?
They're another community platform, the same
Ah,
as Higher
okay, okay,
Logic,
okay,
but
okay, okay, okay.
it's just one platform buying another. You remember when Jive was bought by Lithium? Uh, Lithium now is Kuros, but they bought Jive back in the day. So two platforms merging in a sense. As of now, they claim to say, Vanilla Forums and Higher Logic say, well, it's going to be two separate things. Think about this. Higher Logic, and we won't have to get big time into it, but it gives you something to think about. Higher Logic owns the association market, but they also, the last 4 or 5 years, have been heavily into the corporate market.
Mm.
So, two different studies, but they knew, I think Higher Logic knew that, they had to get into that. And so they've been, and I'm a corporate, a technology company. So case deflection, all that kind of stuff is really a focus. But when they bought Vanilla Forums was solely on the corporate business. And so it's a huge lift for Higher Logic from a new, or from additional
Mm.
customers acquisition.
Yeah,
And
that's a tough nut to crack. You're going up against Slack and Microsoft and a bunch of people who already have their tentacles deep into the enterprise.
yeah, but I mean, even Microsoft and those kind of folks buy community platforms, you know? I mean, so when you think of like the Google searches and all that, Slack doesn't allow you all that kind of stuff. Searching in Slack sucks. They're just chat things. Vanilla Forums and uh, Higher Logic are the same, right? They do the same stuff. They're the platform that allows you to do community stuff. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, and it could be that they're targeting not the enterprises, but like a mid tier, you know,
yeah.
companies that are like, I don't know.
Well, some of their customers are Acer, and Vanilla Forums. It's a big company. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
think
also
Vanilla
true.
Forums just had a really a low price point for these
I was going to say it's also probably, yeah, because these other guys I just mentioned are, there's you know, 100 grand for every letter in their name.
yeah, basically. So I don't know. That might be something to talk about, and or
Oh yeah, for next time, absolutely.
so cool.
Um, well, Chris, as always, damn pleasure to talk with you. And until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
All righty, Chris, talk to you later.
All right.